Drafting a defense in fantasy football isn't as simple as just drafting the best defense in the NFL. It is a lot more intricate than that. Winning the defensive position weekly in fantasy football is going to give you a huge leg up on your opponents. In today's video, we're going to be talking about my 5 must-draft defenses based upon who they are playing in week number 1. We are going to be streaming defenses that may not be the best defenses in the NFL, but we are streaming them and drafting them based upon who they play in week number 1. Even those elite defenses are going to face tough matchups during the season where they could absolutely destroy your fantasy football week and potentially score negative points in your lineup. So in today's video, we are going to be talking about 5 defenses that you need to draft right now based upon their matchup in week number 1. We'll also be talking about their upcoming schedule because some of these defenses you can actually keep for multiple weeks into the season. Before we get on into things though, I would like to ask, if you are new to the channel and you do end up enjoying, that you make sure to hit that subscribe button. Make sure you hit that like button while you're down there as well, whether you are new to the channel or not. If you want to follow me on Twitter or X, please do so at NotoriousFantasy. So without further ado, let's get into my top 5 must-draft defenses for the 2023 fantasy football season, but mostly because of who they're playing in week number 1. We begin with my first must-draft defense, the Baltimore Ravens versus the Houston Texans at home in Baltimore. Now, this game has the 6th lowest Vegas point total on the week, set at 44. The Texans' implied point total in this game is 17.25, which ranks 31st in the NFL on the week, and the Houston Texans are the biggest underdogs on the week, set at plus 9.5. It is always a wet dream in fantasy football to stream a defense week number 1 up against a rookie quarterback. It becomes even sweeter when that rookie quarterback is on a team that is expected to be a complete and utter dumpster fire like the Houston Texans. Now, do I think the Houston Texans are going to improve under CJ Stroud compared to what we saw with Davis Money Mills last season? 100%. But in week number 1, I expect the rookie mistakes to be at its highest, right? CJ Stroud potentially reading the defense like Floyd Mayweather trying to read a children's book, right? And he throws an interception instantly, right? I expect CJ Stroud to make a lot of mistakes in this game. I don't think the Baltimore Ravens defense is one of the best defenses in the NFL, but they are certainly above average. They're a decent defensive unit, and I think the Baltimore Ravens easily get it done defensively up against the Houston Texans in this game. I think we could see an interception, a fumble in this game as well. I'm a huge fan of the Ravens defense week 1 up against the Texans, and that is why they're my number 1 must-draft defense. The biggest problem with the Ravens, though, is you will be looking to the waiver wire in week number 2 to find a new defense because the Ravens play up against the Cincinnati Bengals in week 2. Obviously, that is a divisional matchup, so maybe it is a little bit more low scoring because it's an AFC North matchup, but at the end of the day, I'm not playing the Ravens defense up against the Cincinnati Bengals, and I don't think most people would do that either. Moving to the number 2 must-draft defense, we got the left hands up. Who are we? The Commanders. The Washington Commanders going up against the Arizona Cardinals at home in Washington. This game has the lowest Vegas point total on the week, set at 39. The game total isn't even at 40. Which is just incredibly low, right? These are 2 offenses that are expected to not be very good, especially the Arizona Cardinals. I think there is definitely some hope, though, for the Commanders offense. The Cardinals have the lowest implied point total on the week with 16.5. The Cardinals are also +6 in this game, making them the 4th biggest underdog on the week. Now, the Cardinals quarterback situation is definitely up in the air right now. I don't think they definitely have a locked and loaded starter for week 1. In my opinion, based upon the fact that they traded for Joshua Dobbs, I would think that it would be Joshua Dobbs week 1. The question is, does the Cardinals believe that on such short notice, right, they play 2 weeks from now, right? Do they feel confident in Joshua Dobbs, who just showed up 2 weeks ago to start him? If not, I think they're going to go with Colt 45 and 2 zigzags, McCoy, or maybe even Clayton Looney Tunes, but it'll probably be either Colt McCoy or Joshua Dobbs. I actually think Joshua Dobbs can pull a rabbit out of his hat and have a decent game, but the Commanders' defense is already good. And the Commanders are a team that you may be able to hold on to and play in week number 2. Now they play up against the Broncos in Denver. So that could end up being a really solid spot, right? Jerry Jeudy missing some time. Maybe Russell Wilson is not cooking again, right? Maybe he has a shit tier disasterful week 1, just like he had last season. And then you want to go ahead and throw the Commanders out up against the Broncos in week 2. But there's also a chance that Sean Payton gets them right. And then you have to cut the Commanders going up against the Denver Broncos in week 2. Moving now to the third must-draft defense. We got the New Orleans Saints versus the Les Titans. If you guys have enjoyed this video so far, make sure you hit that subscribe button, hit that like button down below. We will be dropping defenses to stream videos every single week of the season, and you will also be getting another version of this video. So maybe if you missed this video or you didn't get one of these defenses, there will be other defenses that are lower owned in your fantasy football league that you may be able to pick up prior to week number 1 and play them. So the New Orleans Saints versus the Tennessee Titans. The third lowest Vegas point total on the week with 41.5. The Titans implied point total is 19.25, which ranks 29th. The Titans are +3 in the game, so they are kind of live to win this game, definitely, especially since the game is in New Orleans. 9th biggest dogs on the week. The biggest positive for the Saints, though, is even if they're just against the Titans, right? Maybe the addition of DeAndre Hopkins really helps this team out a ton. Maybe Ryan Tannehill doesn't look like he did last season. He looks more like he did in the last couple of seasons with the Tennessee Titans. Then maybe this game ends up being just for the Titans, but their upcoming schedule is as juicy as it gets. Week 2 up against the Carolina Panthers in Carolina. Second ever start of Bryce Young could be very interesting for the Saints. Week 3, they go up against Jordan Love and the Green Bay Packers in Green Bay. How good are the Packers going to be? Certainly up in the air. I think Jordan Love is going to look a lot better than people give him credit for, but do I think that he's going to be slicing the defense up? I'm not too sure about that. Week 4 up against Tampa Bay and Baker Mayfield. Might even be Kyle Trask by then in week 4. Week 5 up against Mac Jones and the New England Patriots in New England. And then week 6 at the Houston Texans. So they play the Titans, the Panthers, the Packers, the Bucs, the Patriots, and then the Houston Texans. Week 7, though, is where there's a clear cutoff, right? They go up against the Jacksonville Jaguars. I fully expect Trevor Lawrence to go balls deep into the Saints defense. The Saints have a pretty solid defense here going up against the Tennessee Titans in week number 1. I don't think they're going to be potential week winners, right? I don't think they're necessarily going to carry your team somehow from the defensive slot, but I do think the fact that their schedule is so juicy and it's a pretty decent matchup against the Titans, it makes them one of the most ideal must-draft defenses. Again, the Titans, then the Panthers, Packers, Bucs, Patriots, and Texans. Seems like a good deal to me. Moving now to the fourth must-draft defense, the Seattle Seahawks versus the Los Angeles Rams. This game has the third highest point total on the week, set at 47.5. But I really do believe that is because the Seattle Seahawks are projected to be an offense that is going to be taking dumps on the chests of defenses all season long. This is not the LA Rams defense of the last couple of years that was very fierce. They were feared by offenses. They lose Jalen Ramsey, obviously, to the Dolphins. I just don't think this defense is going to be all that great. The Rams' implied point total is 21. Can you do something for me? Which ranks 22nd at the week for a implied point total. The Rams are plus 5.5, so they are the fifth biggest dogs on the week. Seahawks defense, as we saw last year, was pretty solid. I think the Rams offense, week 1 of Matthew Stafford coming back, Cooper Kupp should be there. Sure, it's definitely not the most ideal matchup on the week, but I don't think the Rams offense is going to be amazing enough to where they are just taking a shit all over the Seattle Seahawks defense. Again, I think the Seattle Seahawks have a really good defense, and I think they're going to be able to force some turnovers from Matthew Stafford. And there's also a chance that even though a lot of stuff we hear out of training camp, Matthew Stafford looks good, this, that, and the other thing, maybe that's all fugazi. It's a wazi, it's a woozy, and Matthew Stafford looks like a chicken with his head cut off back there behind the offensive line, and the Seattle Seahawks run train on the LA Rams. They do face the Lions in week 2 in Detroit, and based upon my projection of the Lions. I fully expect this matchup to be very entertaining for fantasy football purposes. You got some solid quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends even. But in terms of the defenses, I wouldn't want the Seahawks or the Lions defense. And even if the Lions shit the bed on primetime week 1 up against the Chiefs, I'm not going to be willing to throw the Lions away, right? And say, oh, they lost week 1 to the Chiefs, so they're just bad. So they are just some overhyped team, right? I don't think that is going to be true. Even if they get waxed by the Kansas City Chiefs, I still believe heavily in the Lions offense. Before we pivot into the final must-draft defense, I would like to give you guys a quick word from our friends and our sponsor over at Underdog Fantasy. Now, it's still the fantasy football offseason. We are getting close to draft season. Some of you guys may have already drafted already, but if you want to get some more action, even if you've already drafted, Underdog Fantasy is the best place to play fantasy football best ball this summer. If you don't know what best ball is, it's the best part about fantasy football. There's no trades, no waivers, no in-season management. It is just the draft. At the end of every single week, Underdog automatically throws the highest scores into your lineup for you. They have the biggest fantasy football contest ever, Best Ball Mania, for $25 to enter, 150 max entries, $15 million in total prizes, $3 million to first place. They also have kind of like fantasy football leagues. It is a sit and go, not a tournament, but just a sit and go game where you draft versus 11 other people with as low of a buy-in as $3. The first 2 places make money. So if that sounds interesting to you, click on the link in the video description or use promo code Notorious when you sign up for a first batch deposit bonus of up to $100. You deposit 100, they give an additional 150, additional 50, 25, an additional 25. The minimum deposit is $10. So back on into things. My final must-draft defense. Now, this one feels a little bit gross because I think this defense stinks to high heaven, but I am going to go out on a limb here and say that we talked about it off the rip of the video. You don't need to have the best defense ever to stream them or even to draft them, because all that matters is playing the matchups. The Minnesota Vikings, cold like Minnesota, driving around little boaters, versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at home in Minnesota. Notice how all of the must-draft defenses are playing at home in a dome with the Vikings. The 9th highest total on the week, set at 45.5, but that's because everyone and their mother loves the Vikings offense. They got Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, TJ Hawkinson. They got Alexander Madison. Maybe they'll have Jonathan Taylor by then, right? They're a very exciting offense. Their defense might reek. Their defense might be soft as baby shit, but I don't project the Bucs offense to be that great. The Buccaneers simplified point total, their implied point total, I don't know why the fuck it autocorrected to simplified, but their implied point total is 19.5, which ranks the 6th lowest. The Buccaneers are plus 6.5, meaning they are the second biggest dogs, woof woof, on the week. After this game, the Vikings play up against the Eagles in Philadelphia, which is a clear Dikembe no. You don't want to be playing them there again, especially since the Vikings defense isn't very good. I just project that Baker Mayfield's going to fuck things up, right? Baker Mayfield is going to go out there and he's going to make some big plays, right? Because that's what Baker does. But he's also going to make those idiotic plays, those idiotic throws where he thinks Mike Evans is open. A safety comes from over top, RKO's the guy, Mike Evans, picks the ball off, right? I'm a huge fan of streaming defenses up against bad quarterbacks, bad offenses, and I think the Tampa Bay Buccaneers might be bad this year. So my top 5 must-draft defenses: the Baltimore Ravens going up against the Houston Texans, the Washington left hands up, who are we, the Commanders, going up against the Arizona Cardinals, the New Orleans Saints going up against the Atlanta Titans, the Seattle Seahawks going up against the LA Rams, and the cold, like Minnesota, Vikings going up against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. So let me know down below in the comment section, did I miss any defenses that you guys are overwhelmingly targeting in your fantasy football drafts? Let me know down below in the comment section. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you guys have ended up enjoying today's video. I believe that having a good defense, while it might not feel super important, streaming defenses is a huge way to get that edge up on your opponent, and that's why you got to subscribe, because I make defenses to stream videos every single week. I love you guys all so much. Hope you have a great one, and as always, good boy.